Okay, so similar to the last video I did, and you'll notice a theme here, obviously with the same kind of case, this one just being a lot smaller. You find the one way this is going to fit, and here you kind of line up the holes with some pre-existing holes that are there. I think these kits are made to work with different things because there's a lot of extemporaneous holes, so obviously, you know, they have different applications. But here you see the six screws that are on the board only lock in kind of one way where you want this board to go. And you know you want this board to go this way further from the back, and you know this is the back because whenever you see that little mark, that's where your ground wire is going to go. They put this down here to make like a good connection with the ground wire. It's actually pretty handy, makes things nice and easy. So we got the board on here. It comes with screws and these spacers because when you look at any board you're doing this with, if you see components on the bottom like that and it's not flat, that means it's meant to be spaced out. So they come with these spacers, and then a screw goes in the top and then a screw goes in the bottom. There were two holes, if you can see on the side, that kind of have that on the top. I mean, two of the holes, why is my finger not showing? There it is. Two of the holes have that metal thing there. That's where there's two metal spacers. I just assume that's where the metal spacers go. I'm not 100% sure if that's right, but, you know, hoping that's right. It's just logically made sense. So I put the metal spacers where the metal contacts are, and I put the plastic spacers where there was no metal there, just to keep it soft. But the important thing is to make sure all of those spacers are in, because you want the board nice and supported while it's floating on there. And then, of course, you put the screws on the bottom, and then when you put both sets of screws in each one, it just fastens the board down to the plate. Oh, here's one more thing, and I probably should have opened this. If you work with a an icepower 125 ASX2 board, when you get it, you're going to see this blue jumper. More often than not, it's going to be over here. And here where it says, see where it says 230 volts? And this one says 115 volts. You disconnect this jumper, you push this little bracket in, and it comes out. And then you slide it in to whichever one that's appropriate. If you're in Europe, obviously you go with 230 volts. But when you're here in the old US of A, you want to go with 115 volts. Do this, and this is the first thing I did. I just didn't video it. That is that when you take this thing out of the package, that is the first thing you do. You make sure you've got the voltage jumper in the right place. This wasn't a factor on my last video with the 1200 AS2 board because that does the figuring out of the voltage automatically. It does it somehow internal with some kind of electronic witchcraft. I don't know how it works, but you don't have to worry about it on that board. But on this board, as it's kind of an older board, I think these things came out like almost like 10 years ago. This is not new technology. So you might be asking, well, Lou, why did you pick this board? Well, there's a couple of reasons. First reason is it kind of falls right in the single channel one output of power that I needed, while also being nice and small and compact. So it kind of fit that bill. I didn't need anything that powerful for this particular application. I wanted something around 450, 500 watts. So my two choices were either this board or the icepower 500 ASP board, which is an even older board than this. And I've heard there's issues with it. I don't know. I don't know what the issues were, but if I bought that, it actually would have been significantly more money, oddly enough, like probably another $100, not just for the board, but also like another $50 or $60, you know, plus shipping for the case. So I saw no reason to that. And the third reason was this board in particular is a board that a lot of people use to replace power boards in other digital amplifier based bass amplifiers, like you know, like Ampeg, I think, makes a small one. A bunch of those companies that make your smaller amps but powerful amps use a digital board like this. And apparently this is the board of choice to use as a drop-in replacement. So all of that together said this was the right board for me. And then I'm just going to run it bridged out, and I'll get that 450 watts into 4 ohms that I want. Or, you know, it's like 200 watts into a single 8 ohm cabinet, which is more than enough too. You know, because for my big, if I need a really, really big bass rig, I have my this rig over here with a Sans amp preamp, bass preamp, and a big Crown 2502. So I don't need anything stupidly powerful. This is going to kind of sit in the middle of my different power applications for bass playing. I have a small Trace Elliott Elf that kind of falls in the 100 watts into 8, 200 watts into 4 ohms. It's tiny, it fits in my bag, and that's my backup. I have used that on a gig once where I just had to dime all the volumes and get through it. It got the job done, but obviously not always the best way to go. This thing will be a nice middle-of-the-road option if I don't need anything that big, but I still want something strong enough to where I'm not underpowered. And also, this thing is perfectly sized to where it's nice and easy to carry. So that's why I'm doing this project, and it's a little different than the last one. So I will keep assembling this similar to the last one. It has a back plate. So I already mounted the the plug. This doesn't have the switch on it. This will have the switch in the front, and I'll show you how to assemble that in a little bit. But this kind of clicks in, and then you screw it in. I didn't put the second screw in yet. This one thing fought me a little bit to get in. I had to use pliers to kind of kind of really pinch it in. Like it wasn't a perfect fit, like a glove fit, but if you muscle it, it gets in there. And then of course I put the binding posts on again, because I ordered the kit specifically for running this thing as bridged output. It's only got one balanced input, which I'll install in short order, and one set of binding posts that goes out. And the binding posts are easy. It's got 3 plastic washers. The first plastic one you kind of see stays in there, and it's got a lip that goes out, that goes through the hole. And then you put the 2 plastic washers in on the other side, and then the metal nut there, and you tighten it down. And you want those scoops facing up. And of course, I just noticed I did the bottom one wrong, so I'm going to have to correct that. But you want the scoop facing up. That's just going to make soldering it so much easier, and I'll show you how I do that later. Okay, so as you can see, I got everything mounted to the plate. You can kind of see how it goes in here. Again, the same way with the binding posts, you want those scoops to go up on the board. So I'm not going to mount it before I do this, but sometimes the wires are so short, like you have to keep it close. So you want it oriented the right way when it's in there. So with the scoops going up, it just makes soldering it that much easier in case there's a problem. So with this, the scoops are up. Now when the scoops are up, it does mean the thing is technically upside down, but that's perfectly fine. That tends to be always how I mount it. I'm just kind of used to doing it to where I have this push button to release the XLR on the bottom. So here we have one XLR going in and only one channel going out, again, because we're doing this in bridged application, and this is going to be a mono block, because it's a bass amp, and it's not going to be used for stereo, obviously, which is why I'm replacing this build with what I was using, my old 300 AS1 A1 build, which I'm going to have to crack open because I don't remember how that power switch works, and this power switch is the same thing. I remember that being a pain in the butt on this build. So I'm actually going to crack this open to refresh my memory how that works. Because again, there's no instructions on how to do this, which is the reason why I'm doing this video in the same vein that I did the last video. So onward we go. Okay, so now I'm starting to go through the wiring a little bit just to see how the layout goes. And on the Ghent website, there's actually no wiring instructions for bridge. But there is kind of a picture of some wiring assembled for the 2-channel application. I'll put that channel in here, and that's how I kind of got a very comfortable way of knowing where these wires go. Now, because this is bridged, only one input and one output, obviously it's going to be wired a little bit differently. Obviously instead of 4 cables coming out of here, or 2 hots and 2 negatives, one for each channel, obviously the 2 hots become a positive and a negative. And you don't have to worry about which one goes where, because again, whenever you have these connections, they only go in one way. So they do make it easier that way. So I know this is right. It's the only way it goes in. They got the red and the black here already. Can't reverse it. So obviously we know which one is positive. We know which one is negative. This one's going to go to the red. This one's going to go to the black. That part is easy. And then we have this one here where I can see where the signal cabling goes from the other diagram. That goes here. I'm not going to assemble it yet, but it only goes in one way, so I'm pretty sure it goes. I think it goes in that way, but I'll figure that out. But the key is here, as you see how it's got that loop there. That's obviously tying something together to make this one channel and have the signal go the way it has to go in order for bridged to operate. So that's the difference between buying the wiring kit for a bridged application and buying the wiring kit for a 2-channel application. There is a difference between the two, depending on what you are using this thing for. Make sure you order the right one. I'll say this, if you're going to do a 2-channel application, I would say probably worth it to go with what I started with when I built a smaller 2-channel. And that would be the first digital lamp I built, my 300 AS1 and 300 A1 build. So that big board there is one channel, and then the little board is the other channel. It's just that the power supply is on the one board, and then the other board is a hanger board. But I opened this one up because this has the same plug that that this one uses. The same power button that this one uses, and I had to refresh my memory how to assemble it, and now I kind of remember how to assemble it. The only weird difference here is in the diagram, the power cord is twisted, whereas in this one, it's just kind of straight. So I might twist it myself, or I might not. I don't know. It's going to depend on my mood. But at least I now know where it goes. This is going to go into the positive and negative over here. And of course, the ground here is going to get screwed to this with this cable, and I'm going to do that, and I'll show that to you. This runs from the switch over to the board into one of these things. I can't remember which one it is. I'm pretty sure it's this one right here, but I'll show it to you when it's actually assembled. That's that I think powers the LED light or something, or it has something to do with the switch. So the power goes from the power to the switch, and then the switch has this wire going to the board, and that's kind of what powers everything. And make sure that works. And again, I'll reiterate this again, make sure this jumper is on the 115 volts if you're in the States, obviously, but of course if you're in Europe running 230 volt, you have it in 30 volt. You have to physically put the jumper on the correct voltage on this application. It's not something you leave to chance. Sometimes it's automatic on some of these boards, and sometimes it's not. I know on this board it isn't, and on the ASP board, I know it has a switch. So on this build, for the 125 ASX2 build, whether you're building it in bridged or in 2-channel, you got to make sure that thing's in the right spot. So I will continue on, and I will show you the progress when I get it done. Okay, so I just want to do a quick little addendum here and show you the ground. Obviously, the ground is hooked up to the ground connection here in the back of the plug. Goes into here. The screw, and the screw alone goes up from the bottom to go through this. And then this goes in to be flush against that. And then the lock washer goes in on top of that. And then the nut goes on top of the lock washer. And then you tighten it down good to where you're compressing that lock washer, because you want this on good, nice and tight, because that is your ground, and ground is very important. So make sure that part is right. Make sure this is connected again to the part where you got this little thing here. That's where the ground goes. So very easy to see. Okay, so now before I solder those in, and I'll show you those when they're done, and before obviously I do the power cables and put them anywhere, I've got to mount the switch, because this from the power plug goes to the switch. So the switch gets mounted here, And I'll show you what the switch looks like when it's mounted. Before I mount it here, that's what it looks like. So you have the hardware for the switch here. You have one long screw that's going to hold up the back of the switch here, right? And then the two gold things go into the front here. There's two holes here, and then those two things go in there and hold the plug, the switch up from the front. And of course, obviously the front of the switch is going to go through that hole. So I'm going to assemble that now. I'll be back in a second. All right, so as you can see, I'm mounting the front plate on. I just wanted to make a note. Obviously, you want to mount the front plate before you put the switch on, because that's where the switch is going to screw into from the back, and I'll show you that in a second. There's two little holes. But when you are mounting this to the front, you're only going to put the two bottom screws on, because right now I don't have the top plate on yet. So you're going to mount the two plates here, and when you're mounting it from the front, you use the Allen keys. That's my wife. She's home. Hey, baby. So the Allen key screw is going to front. I guess it's decorative or something. I don't know. So just so you know. All right, going a different school of thought here. I retook out this plate because I'm going to take these two elevators here and screw them in first, because I was trying to put them in while the plate was mounted and it was just not working. So I'm going to, because apparently these things are very hard to put in without cross-threading. As a matter of fact, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this while holding the phone at the same time. But obviously these go in here, and I'm going to try to get this in here. Very fine little, all right, now I definitely can't hold the phone, so hold on here. Okay, so I got them in. Weird, first one fought me. Like, it always feels cross-threaded no matter what, so I used my needle nose and I got them in. The second one went in really easy, but that's how they go in. You want to make sure they're all the way down to the bottom. You're not leaving any stem there on the bottom, because you want them in right, because the switch has got to be mounted just right to go have that longer screw go in that third hole. These two screws, believe it or not, are not used. These two are here instead. Mount the front of the switch, and then the back is supported level with that long screw washer with the two screws that go in on each side, and then it goes to the back of the switch in that hole right there. So I'm going to do that now. All right, I'm already starting to get my flashbacks, because I got the first screw mounted in here. This one is easy because there's nothing above it. You could just, screw it in. Now this one, I've got to get the screw in there, right? And then I got to find a way to get a screwdriver underneath like this thing. Like I got to finger tighten it. And this one is kind of a pain. I remember this one not being pleasant. So there's no way in hell I'm going to do that while holding a phone. So I'm going to have a hard time, and you're probably going to have a hard time with it too. It does get in there. It's just annoying. You just got to be creative. Okay. I'm recording this only because this is a pain. What I do is I held this thing like this, had it all the way back here, got it in a hole, and then just twisted it like that to get it started in the threads that are on here. I don't know if I can finger this from here or not. It might not work. No, it's not letting me finger it. Let me see if I can just get this screwdriver. Nope. I'm just going to have to keep using this and tightening it very slowly to get it to start. So I can't do that and hold the phone. All right, I did it slowly. What I did was, I got it started like I said before. And then what I was doing was just using this on an angle, a needle nose pliers, and I just kept twisting it really slowly, painstakingly slowly. But if you look at it from here, you can see it's flushly mounted, and that's what you want. You want it mounted flush like that. You obviously want, that the plates fire up that way. You got the button through the hole, and obviously you got all the components and stuff facing up and not down. I made that mistake once. And then, this goes in here like so. And then those two holes mount up with those two mounting holes in the bottom. And then, this long thing is what holds that third hole, right? Kind of like the spacers that you saw on here. It's just a longer spacer that goes in between that, and then the screw goes in top, screw goes in the bottom. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, so as you can see, now I have, I use another one of the silver screws in through the top. That goes through and then screws into this. And when I put that plate on, it's going to line right up with that. And then I'm going to take that black screw, and I'm going to put it in through the bottom and screws it into this bad boy. And I'll show you that assembled. All right, so as you can see, you might be wondering why I put this one in there, but didn't put this in and have that line up. It's because I did have it assembled, but then I realized I forgot to mount the feet. So don't do this and mount this down there before you put the feet on. With the feet, mount from the bottom, and you need a screw in there from the top. And when you have the switch mounted and all screwed up together with this screwed in the bottom plate, you can't get to that. So that's why I have it disassembled, and I'll show you one of the feet in a second. Okay, 2 bottom plates back on, switch on, screwed in from the bottom, lining up with that hole perfectly. Feet installed. Put them on first before you do the switch. Don't make the mistake I did. Have to disassemble it and put it back together again. But now you're kind of seeing how the front of this looks. The switch on and off. Just got to wire it up. I am not going to assemble that wire yet because I want this kind of able to freely float before I strip these and start soldering these. So I'm going to solder these first and then assemble that. I'll show you that soldered. Okay, so now we can see that we did the soldering. Now, as you can see, when I strip this wire, you have 3 different components. There's the ground, which is kind of like the raw wire that surrounds everything. So you cobble that up all together, and then that goes into number 3, which is for the ground. And then we have the number 3 hole, and then number 3 hole has the cold, and then the number 2 hole has the hot. All right, that's the red. So you see that. And as I said before, the red, obviously speaker wire goes to the positive. We got that soldered. It's in there pretty good. We got the black. That is the, I cut my finger. The black goes to the negative there. And we got that soldered in there decently good. And now I'm going to do the completion wiring, and I'll show that when it's done. Okay, so we got everything put together here. All right, you know, positive and negative here, this to the ground. As I said, this wire goes to here. It only goes in one way. You see the red and the black match, so that's good. And it comes out from here. Again, this only goes in one way, goes across. It only fits in one place, which is there, so you know it's the right spot. And then the small gray and red wire goes in here. Again, only goes in one way. Goes around to this little bad boy here. I don't know why that third hole's there, but you know, the wiring harness doesn't come with any wire in there, so don't worry about it. And as I said, this we already did. This was the signal, you know, with the one loop there for bridged. Again, it comes like that as long as you order the correct thing. If you're doing 2-channel, then do 2-channel. If you're doing bridged, then you're doing bridged. This is bridged. You know, red to red, black to black. So as far as I know, we are all wired up and ready to go. Let's make the switch, make sure the switch is in the off position. And what we are going to do is we are going to plug in a power cable. Okay, let's plug in the power cable here. We are going to plug this into the wall, being very careful not to touch anything inside the amp when we do this, because we don't want to kill ourselves. But what we want to do is we just want to make sure nothing smokes or anything as such. Now, she's plugged in. Do not touch anything. Well, nothing inside the amp, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to power it on. And we have a blue LED. No noises, no sparks, no flame, no anything of that nature. So for the moment, I am pretty comfortable that I'm going to mount the top plate Oh, well, no, let me turn it off and not touch anything. Okay. I noticed that when oh, okay, it does eventually turn off there. That's good. I don't remember if my other one did that. It takes a while for that light to go off. But it does go off eventually. So, okay. Well, let's just roll with it and see what happens. Let's see if it works. Okay. Good news and kind of bad news. Good news is it's working, and working well. The bad news is I have to turn the ground lift on for it to not have a buzz, which is making me wonder if I have some kind of grounding issue in the amp or not. Now, if I disconnect everything from the amp, there's no sound if you turn it on, which is good, but I have a TRS cable into here, and I know this is a balanced output, and a balanced output into there, which means there should be no noise, but there's noise. Now, I know sometimes when I plug things into outlet there is weird noises because of that lamp. So I'm hoping that's it. I don't know, but the amp is working. You know what I mean? So that's good, but I'll keep you posted.